Hi Tom, thanks so much for joining me here at Gearheads. How have you been coping with this UK weather?
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Thanks for having me, man. It feels odd being this side, but
Yeah, I want to ask, are you ready to swap seats?
I'm nervous. You know, I never get nervous before recording my show. But yeah, it's very kind of exposing, isn't it, doing a podcast? Because ultimately you tend to be talking about yourself, and most people, myself included, don't necessarily enjoy that, especially when you're going into a conversation knowing that that's exactly what's going to happen. It's not like you're talking about something else and something about your past has popped up. So yeah, a little more nervous than I am usually on a podcast. I thought, you know, at first when you invited me on, I was like, it's fine, it's a podcast, isn't it? I can do that. Easy. That's what I do all the time. And then as I started thinking about it more and more and more, I was like, interesting. I wonder how this will go.
I think I will be the opposite. So if for me it's easier, I think if someone asks me the questions than me asking the questions, because I have some type of ADHD, I get too nervous. And after I don't have an anxiety, but after, if you see, since I started having cancer, I started having more stutterism. I don't know what is the correct word, so I start stutter a little bit. And that you can see when I'm doing my monologues. So if I'm speaking with you normally, I think it will be easier.
Yeah.
When I have to read a script, I do when I do the podcast alone, I don't know. I started stuttering a lot and go like, what am I gonna say now? If you know what I mean. So it's a little bit hard. But this is your first time on the other side. Okay. So we're gonna be easy. I hope so. And my first question that I want to ask you is, why you jump from Royal Navy to sim racing? Why this jump?
I don't know. I feel like I have to kind of search into my soul to work that one out. It wasn't planned. So I'd been in the Navy for 10 years. I joined straight out of school. I was, studying A levels and was going to go and do law. My dad really wanted me to do law. I had a couple of places at university in the UK, and then I had this kind of, I was about to say midlife crisis, but I would have been 17. So I guess very early life crisis, where I suddenly realized I have no interest whatsoever in law. Why am I signing up to 3 years of studying something that I know literally nothing about? And everything I Google about it looks really freaking boring. I was like, why? Why am I doing this? Like, it just felt like the right thing to do. All my friends were going to university to study something. And from what I could tell, studying law would give you a good job. And that just seemed to be like the default. It seemed to be, that was like the easy route, right? And then one day I was reading up on a bit of law, like in the school library. And I was like falling asleep. Like, this is dull. Why am I doing this? And I've been in the Army Cadets, right? And I love the Army Cadets. I love running around in the woods and doing all the weapon stuff. And I like the team leadership element of it. That was great. So I was like, I'm going to go join the Army. So I left sixth form halfway through the day, drove in my little 1996 silver and rust 0.9 litre Fiat Punto. Absolute beast. Still probably the car that I've loved the most to this day. Drove to the careers office.
I love my own. I didn't have a Punto, but I had families that have a Punto. My mother used to have a Panda, 750 Fire one. Yeah. And nice. I think the car was really, really, really cool. I think
so much fun.
Probably exactly because we have very light cars. And after, I remember when she swapped for the new Panda, or when they swapped the version, that go a little bit more narrow, quite high. I never feel comfortable on that car, because the car was too tall, too skinny. Very soon you go on a roundabout, you feel that the car, if you go a little bit more, that the car is going a little bit outside.
Well, because back then the tires for those cars were so narrow. They were tiny. But yeah, I loved it. I did the classic thing. I'd go to Halfords and buy little bits to spec out the car on the inside. It was great. It was a project. So I drove off to the careers office. The idea being that I was going to go join the army, but the army recruiting officer wasn't in. So I ended up joining the Navy instead. And that's a true story. The naval officer came out and said, well, you know, whoever it was, Dave isn't in today. But why don't you join the Navy and be a Harrier jump jet pilot? And I was like, oh my God, that would be amazing. So I signed up, joined the Navy, started going through flight training when they scrapped all of the jets. So I very quickly got moved from flying to driving warships. So navigating, it was called navigating officer. So drove aircraft carriers, mine hunters. My first like proper job when I was out of training was on a frigate out in the South Atlantic, Falkland Islands, round into the East Pacific, and I got to travel to Panama and Colombia and the Bahamas and Miami. It was great. And then out to the Middle East, and I was a boarding officer. So I was jumping out of helicopters onto like fishing dhows and stuff, looking for drugs and weapons and stuff. That was a lot of fun. I got really into that. I was a helicopter fast rope instructor, and the course to do that was nuts. Just 2 weeks of just jumping out of helicopters. So absolutely loved it. Then we went out to the Mediterranean, and we did a lot of the refugee crisis off the coast of Libya. And that was obviously a crazy experience. And off the back of that, I got recommended for command. So I was captain of a patrol boat in Newcastle in the northeast of England, which is why I've told this incredibly long, protracted answer to your question. But then I fell in love with Newcastle. Like, I absolutely love the city of Newcastle, but it's 7 hours away from the nearest naval base. I met my girlfriend, who I'm with now, when I first came here, and just decided that was it. I was going to leave the Navy for Newcastle, really. But I'm my girlfriend, obviously, she's listening. And then I went off to there's a local marine school where I was going to convert my warship driving license into a super yacht driving license. So I was going to go and do the super yacht thing. That was my plan. But COVID hit, and I'd always been really into racing games. From F1 2011, that was like my first. Well, actually, my first racing game was Tokka 2. I love Tokka 2, and then the original Gran Turismos and Need for Speed, and I was like properly into them as a kid. But when I was going through basic training, they had it would have been phase 2, so after like the gnarly bit, there was a recreation room, and it had a Xbox with one game, and the game was F1 2011, and I got totally hooked on it. And actually, that's what made me a fan of motorsport, was playing the game. Like, I was a fan of the game first, the sport second, right?
Then the sports.
Yeah. So I played the game for years and years and years. And then anyway, COVID hit, and I had loads of spare time. I was still going through my super yacht training. But even when I was doing that, it was only like an hour a day or whatever. So I bought a cockpit. So I bought a Simracing K2 rig. I got one of the old like play seat, the fold up play seats that I put onto the Cometic K2, so I could fold it down and put it away in a cupboard. Had like a TV mounted off the wall, and I had a Thrustmaster T300 to start with, and then a TSPC after that, and just totally got hooked, absolutely hooked. So I raced in a league called Invictus Racing League, another one called Grant Racing League. I'm not sure why it was called Grant. I don't think I ever asked, because there was nobody in the league called Grant. Weird. Anyway, so I got really, really into sim racing, and especially league racing, right? So I was racing on a Wednesday night. A guy called Craig ran a fantastic league. It's still going today. Invictus Racing League is really good. And I couldn't do Wednesday nights anymore. So I started doing some reserves work. So I'm still in the Navy Reserve. And that was on a Wednesday. So I had to leave and find another league. And I found the process of trying to find another league really, really difficult. Like, you'd go into a Facebook group and you say, I'm looking for a league, and you get loads of links. You click on a link, like, perfect, great. This is an F1 league. So, I'd be in there. I'd go through the Discord process. I'd chat to a few people, and then say, right, can you send us your Xbox Live username or whatever? I'm like, I'm not on Xbox. I was on PlayStation back then. So it's like, okay, back out, leave this Discord channel, go back to the links, find the next one. okay, this is a PlayStation League. Perfect. Right. So I joined the PlayStation League. And then it turns out they're in Australia. And so the races are at 3 a.m. I'm like, okay, again, not ideal. So I come back out again. I was like, why isn't there just one place where you can go and say, I want to race on PlayStation, Formula One, on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whenever day it was. And I want it to be in Europe because A, ping, and B, time zone, and then just join. So I figured I would try and make it. So I discovered Wix, which is like there's a free version of it. It's like a web building tool. And I built out essentially just like a list, right? So it's just a page. It was originally called Rig Racers. That was the original name of the site. And the idea was that I was going to write articles. I actually wrote a few articles, right, about like reviews. So I reviewed the kit that I already had. And then I started writing articles about news in sim racing. I did all right. You know, I got a few thousand views on each article. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But then I did the list of leagues, but I would have to go out and speak to people and be like, right, I see you run a league. Can you, and I'd ask them like 6 or 7 questions. I'd put that information on a page on my website. I go back out, find another league, ask them 6 or 7 questions, get that information, put it on another page on my website. And obviously it would take forever. And I had like, 20, 25 leagues that I just kind of manually put on there. So then I was like, right, I'm going to make a form. So I made a form where I could just send a link to the form and they would fill in the information, and then I'd copy and paste it across. And then I put the form on the website, and then this like network effect started happening where people were seeing leagues on it and then giving out the form to other people who had leagues, who would give the form to other people, and then all of a sudden I had like, 100 forms, and I was manually copying and pasting stuff across, and it was just taking forever. And I was like, okay, I've unleashed a beast here. So then I learned how to make it so that you could log in, you can make a profile, you could put your own information on, and then you could update that information. And then as soon as I did that, it was scalable, because now the site would grow and I didn't have to do anything other than just write my articles about sim racing. And we had 300, 400, 500 leagues that joined in the first 6 months. And then I thought, you know what? I think there's something here. I don't know what, but I think there's something here. I had no business background whatsoever. So I just started watching YouTube videos about how to, do a startup or how to build a business. And I read all the classic books that you read as a startup entrepreneur, which is like the Lean Startup, Entrepreneur Revolution, Mum Test, all the anybody who's kind of been in this world would have read those. Buy Back Your Time, really great book that I've just read. So yeah, I kind of self-taught myself how to do it. And then eventually I found that there was a tech startup scene in Newcastle. I found out what a tech startup scene was, because I had no idea what that meant. And I started going to some events and found an accelerator, right? So an accelerator is a course that you go on, and they teach you the basic building blocks of how to build a business, how to build a team, how to work out what problem you're solving, how to test solutions, how to be scrappy, MVP, agile, blah, 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 all of the the buzzwords in the startup world. So I applied for this. I went to an event where they were announcing the opening of the applications for this accelerator, where it was a 5-month course and you get £2,000 a month for 5 months to support you, eating. Up to that point, to fund myself doing this, because I'd basically gone full time. This was in the winter of 21. I'd sold my flat and I sold my car. And by this point, my car I absolutely loved it. It was a BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. So I sold that to be able to support myself while I was building out this concept that I didn't really know what it was going to become. Took a bit of a punt, really. And then I went to this event, and at the event, I met my co-founder, Nikhil, who is a very talented developer. He was there with his own concept, which was a very cool idea. It was it was how you can take different media from across the internet to build guides, tutorials, onboarding processes for companies, etc. So you'd have a big open screen, and on your laptop or whatever, just a blank canvas. But then you would see there's a tweet here with a thread with advice, and then the links the link on those tweets would then kind of be embedded on this page where you could then see articles, and then they might link to YouTube videos. So you could kind of build this channel through the internet and show different media types, right? It was a really cool idea. Anyway, but I met him at this event, told him what I was doing with Gridfinder, and he was a real avid gamer, absolutely loved gaming. He'd won like tens of thousands of euros playing Rocket League when he was at university, like the previous year. Like, he was proper into the esports scene. I told him what I was doing with Gridfinder, and he absolutely loved it. And then, long story short, he ended up coming onto the team to be the CTO and co-founder at Gridfinder, and we got a space on the accelerator together. So we did the 5-month accelerator together, which was great. And we had and I had Chris. Chris was the third co-founder at Gridfinder, but he hadn't come on full time yet. He had a family and bills to pay, so we had no money, so he couldn't come on full time. So yeah, me and Nikhil took the £10,000 and the course, and then we kind of learned what we needed to do, and then we just built it from there. And we decided to build a league management system, and we've done activations with Porsche and Formula E, and you got the podcast now. The team's grown to 9 people full time, 11 in total. We've raised over like £500,000 in investment, and to be honest with you, it's all just baffling. It's just totally and utterly baffling. We're just kind of although we've been going 3 years now, and we've got staff and HR and accountants and blah 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 and all this like business stuff, does still feel like we're exploring. But actually, what I've come to realize is that all good companies should continue to explore. There's a great phrase which is like, a startup is just a learning machine. You just need to keep exploring, keep testing, keep learning. And that's where we are now. So I can't even remember what the question was that you answered, because I just kind of went off.
No, it was to be fair. After we're talking about why you jumped from Royal Navy to sim racing, was to talk about the creation of Gridfinder, but you already explored almost all that parts. Is perfect.
Sorry, I've stolen your question.
Yeah,
this is what happens when you get 2 podcast hosts together to do a podcast.
Yeah, because you already know a little bit what people are expecting you to. But let me only ask you. So, for example, let me focus now on the part of the podcast. Why you creating the podcast of Gridfinder? Because it's completely different from what you guys was doing.
Yeah, it's totally different. It was a total side project. Again, it was another experiment. It was another punt. Like everything we do, it's a test first. Everything we build on Gridfinder, every activity we always do, we always consider it a test. So we're not married to the idea just because we've put a few hours into it, right? So we started the podcast primarily really for networking, because we wanted to partner with a lot of people. I wanted to speak to a lot of influencers. I wanted to get to know all the people that were in the sim racing industry. And when you message a CEO of a manufacturer, like a sim racing manufacturer, and you say, hey, I've got this company called Gridfinder, and we do this and that, and it'd be great to chat about how we can collaborate or maybe advertise on the platform, or you could do a tournament, blah, blah, blah. You don't tend to get too much traction, because you're essentially, it feels like a cold call, right? It feels like a transactional conversation. Whereas when you email a CEO of a manufacturer and you say, hey, love your brand, your story is really cool. We have a podcast where we talk about the people behind sim racing. It would be great if you'd be interested in being a guest. The return rate is much higher, with basically 100%. Everybody will come on and tell you their story. And it's been great. It's also been a really good opportunity for me once a week to just spend an hour not looking at my emails, not looking at our planning tools like our Notion and our Asana and our blah, 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 blah. And just zoom out a bit and talk about the market that we're in, talk about the sim racing industry that it's become, and just think. And it's been really nice to just put an hour aside every week to talk with, not just sit and think on my own and just kind of reaffirm my own assumptions, but to get someone else on the show and talk with them about their experiences, their perspectives, ask them questions about what they think and where is the industry going, what are the problems that need to be solved, and what their opinions are on the current solutions. And it's been hugely beneficial. But it's done well. The podcast has done really well, and it's grown to a size that we never thought that it would be. And and more importantly, I've been able to meet some really, really cool people that I still speak to now. Our phone book of people that we're close with is much bigger because of the podcast. So it was a test, but I'd say it's a successful test, and I really, really enjoy it. So we intend to go forever.
Really? Okay, that was one of my next questions. So what will be the process for the podcast? If it's going to be something that you think that can go for the next couple of years, or is going to be like a project that in one more year will end?
Well, this was it. This was the other thing, right? Because like we always say that everything is a test, and I have to admit, the first thing I thought when we were discussing doing the podcast was, are we going to have enough guests? If we're going to do an episode every single week, and every single week we're going to have a new guest, are we going to be able to last a whole year? Or do we want to do it in seasons? Like we'll do a 10-show run, and then we'll stop for a couple of months, then do another 10-show run. But actually, like, we're at 60, 70 episodes now. I think we've actually had our 75th. So it's been going over a year. And we're booked out until next year with guests, like great guests. There's so many interesting, inspiring people in sim racing that there's you never run short of good conversations to have.
Exactly.
I mean, we try and keep a balance. So we have esports drivers. So we went to the Red Bull factory and recorded a podcast there. We've been to the Williams factory. We've been to the Alpine factory. Like, we record with either the teams or the team managers. We've got a load of episodes that will be coming out soon that we recorded at Red Bull a couple of weeks ago, which was really, really cool. And then it's like, all the manufacturers, so Acertec, Fanatec, Track Racer, but there's loads that Visara, there's loads that we haven't even touched yet. Like, I still haven't spoken to anyone at Next Level Racing, so that's someone else that will get on and speak to them about how Next Level Racing started and what their journey is and how they're different from other companies, and get to know the people behind it and the thought process behind it. Because I think a lot of the time, as a sim racer, you see brands online on either Facebook or Reddit or Discord or whatever, and they'll put something up or be an advert, and there's always a lot of negative comments, on all of these brands. It doesn't matter if it's Next Level Racing, Track Racer, Visara. It doesn't matter what sector of the market they're in, entry level or turnkey solutions for ultra high net worth. There's always negative comments, and actually, when you listen to the people who, especially the guys that started the company, like the first few people that started and had this vision, they're so incredibly passionate about sim racing. It always makes me feel a little sad when I see the negative comments, because I know that these people will be so genuinely hurt by it, because they've put their life and their passion poured into this product, and then someone will say something flippant about, the instructions, page 7 of the instructions were a mess. You guys need to sort your company out. Like, come on, like.
Yeah, we are such a small niche, and we have to remember that sim racing is a hobby. On the main, for us, is a hobby. No, probably for you it's a bit more than a hobby. But we have content creators that sometimes they make such a good work, and straight away they put something they are calling every different type of name just because they have a different opinion. And after, the same thing apply for games. If it's difficult because sometimes we don't know what's go around, and some companies, they have to change. They have a good idea, they have to change the idea to go around the market or the costs. And sometimes this happen a mistake, and the companies are evolving. But if a company make a mistake, and we go straight away and batch completely the mistakes, and don't let them don't give them the options to sort it out, we are creating more problems for us as a sim racing, because after the company don't want to do, I'm going to arrive a day that I think no company wants to do a game, because every time someone put a game is always a problem. Every time someone putting a...
Well, the other thing is, like, I think people sometimes complain as a sport.
Oh yeah,
because you guarantee
that's
people
100%.
that will say that
That's 100%.
like the Fanatec quick release is rubbish, and they've probably got the CSL DD and the McLaren wheel and a rally wheel, and when the new one comes out, they'll buy that one as well anyway. But it doesn't stop them from complaining and having their say. But then that's sadly part of the world that we're in, because you kind of have an anonymity online, and most people I speak to will say like they don't listen to the comments. They're good at blocking it out. But I remember I did a podcast it's probably a year ago, maybe just over a year ago, with Chris Hay, and I was chatting to him about the feedback that he gets, and how he deals with it if it's negative. And he was like, if it's nonsense, it doesn't bother me. Like, if it's just people just talking rubbish about generic, they don't like me, essentially, it doesn't affect him at all. If someone comes in and says, I think the set design at the back is getting a little flat, I think the lighting could be better, that he'll properly like drill down on and be like, okay, right, that's somebody who's made a complaint, but it's constructive. Could they have just been like, nice video, like, but then he'll like go into that in detail, right? But then you've got like Will Ford tweeted or X'd or whatever it is yesterday or the day before yesterday.
He's looking fat. Yeah,
right. Somebody just says you're looking fat. And he's like, well, I've lost 10 kilos and I'm working on it. And
for me,
what? My question is, like, where do you have to be in life to feel like that is an okay thing to say to somebody?
Or you don't have nothing to do. I think from the last ones, the most funny I saw was against Gamer Muscle, James. That I think is one of the most nice persons that I met. He's so welcome, so nice person. And they was saying to him that he should not do any reviews of sim racing because he don't drive.
Because he doesn't drive.
So if you don't know, yeah. So I wanted to answer to the person. I said, probably you are a Max Verstappen fan.
Whoa,
and you remember that Max Verstappen went to Formula 1. He didn't have a driving license. Exactly. Because people forgot, for example, like I say, Max Verstappen, when he went Formula 1, he didn't have a driving license. Actually, because he was 17, so he could not drive in some countries. So they have to drive him. So it was quite funny, that part. So I say, you have a guy that is one probably of the best Formula 1 drivers, and when he started, he didn't have a driving license. So one thing is not, is not balanced the other one. But come on, when that one from Will, when they come to Gamer Muscles, are complaining because of you don't know what to drive on real life. So okay.
I actually didn't know that, and we're getting James on the show quite soon, and I will maybe make that my number one question. Like, how do you sleep at night, man, doing what you do without a driving license? but this is the thing, right? We're talking about passionate people. So James is like, I love James's content because it's so different. Like, he does a lot of sim racing, but he also does Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I've also watched a stream of his where he just went for a walk. He just went for a walk, in the morning, just to get some fresh air, and he was just chatting away about life. And the first time I met him in person, I think it was the first time, maybe it was the second, because I met him at Nürburgring. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was in the Canadian Embassy in London for the release of D-Box's 5th generation actuators. And they had a couple of rigs there and some drivers and whatnot. And I started chatting to James. And then afterwards, he was like, do you want to go for a walk? What are you doing now? I was like, well, at some point I'll get the train back to Newcastle, but yeah, we can go for a walk. So we just went on this walk around the Thames. It's about an hour, and he was giving me like a historical tour, saying this is what this monument is, and it's about this, that, and the other, and it's about this event, and then this building over here is that. And I was like, this guy just loves to give. He just loves to kind of, just share, and I absolutely loved it. And then Ricardo, you mentioned before, random call sign, exactly the same. Like he's very zany, very wacky. I've been fortunate enough to meet him a load of times at various expos and stuff, and he's exactly the same, right? He's exactly the same. He is just a character. We have all these great characters crammed into such a small industry. We're very, very lucky
Exactly. That's the thing I don't understand, because you need to remember that sim racing is like an escape for us of doing something that we cannot do. No, we cannot go on a truck and blast an F1 car or a F4 car or a GT car. You're never going to have the money, and after being never going to have the possibility to do. And a lot of the people that do content creators, I don't want to discriminate anyone. So if I say something wrong, I'm sorry. But a lot of us have our bad thing, our devil side. Some of us don't have a very strong mental health, or we don't have a very or we have some type of, like I say, some types of autism, that we are more smart than some type of, or we are just, so we are persons that probably we use it for an escape. And this negativity, this type of thing, sometimes is sad, is, I don't know why, because people forget, a guy that put a video, or you do a podcast, or you do whatever, you take time of your life to do something that you like it. So if you're going to be negativity, at least like Chris, I say, give me something that's going to be not going to help me to understand where I make a mistake. Yesterday I went to Random Cosine to because he's been helping me a lot, so I went there to say thank you and to give him a present for everything he's been helping me. And I showing something that I saw in the morning that was a random guy, no name. I think the name is Altruist or something. Go on Reddit, of course. I've always to be Reddit. Go on Reddit and put, I love Jardier, I love Random Call Sign, I love these guys. And after put two names that they are bloody awful, and put my name and put the name of other person that I never meet. And it was like this. just like this. Give me. I'm new on sim racing. Give me good examples or something. At least explain why my content is not good or something, or explain why.
It's sad, really, because I guess it's their way of feeling powerful.
Could be. I don't know. It's strange. I was expecting when I jump on sim racing, I'm telling you, that sim racing would be a little bit more welcome, because you always see the videos and people are so welcome on the videos. I never realized that is such negativity surrounding that we need to change it. Of course.
Well, I would say that I think there is more positivity than negativity.
Yeah, that is.
But the negativity is often louder. Like, a lot of people will see something that they really like, smile, enjoy it, and move on to the next thing without leaving a comment. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Whereas, it's like restaurants, right? You're far more likely to get a negative review for a restaurant than a positive review. Or the same with a hotel. Like, do you ever go to a hotel and say everything was fine? The room was clean, it was quiet, I slept well. Like, people just don't have time for that. Whereas if you go into a room and it's dirty, you take a picture, you put it on Google, like, this is outrageous, I want a discount, blah, 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 blah. And it's the same in sim racing, People, a lot of people spend, hundreds of thousands, millions of hours every day, every week watching sim racing content that they enjoy. But not everyone will comment positively, and that's totally fine. That's just the reality of it. But if you're listening, give Gearheads a nice positive review on Spotify.
Yeah, that's the thing. One of the things that I want to ask you is how we can break, as a podcast on sim racing, make the people interact. Because a lot of times when we do the audio parts, that's where you and me have a little bit more our retentions and our views. We cannot have the interaction with the people. And after the people that see your podcast, they will not go, because they already hear it on the audio. They will not go to see the video.
What we're trying to do, I'd be interested to get your opinion on this, but what we're trying to do is essentially do like a pre-recording campaign. Could be just a couple of days, right? But we've got literally, like, in 2 hours' time, I've got Swelio Almeida on the podcast. And so for the last few days, we've been messaging in our Discord, our Facebook group, our Twitter, Instagram stories, saying we've got Swelio on the show. Drop in any questions that you've got. And then at the end of the interview, I'll ask questions from, our listeners. And actually what I want to do is I want to try out the voice notes that you can do on Spotify. So you can ask questions on voice notes.
Okay.
I don't know if that's possible on Discord, but yeah, so allowing so that rather than just reading out somebody's question and reading out their username, actually having the listener like ask the question and then everyone else hears their voice, and then it feels a bit more real. Because I've listened to a couple of podcasts where I'm fairly sure the questions from the visitors, from the listeners, they're definitely made up.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, but that's the thing. I think sim racing is already, like I say, like it's already very narrow niche when we go to talk about that. And after even on the podcast, we even are even narrow even more. So a lot of the people, they say to me that they listen to the podcast because they go in a car and suddenly appear there on the when they top up the Spotify, appear there the option, and they listen, and I think is that what we need to do. But in terms of, I don't know, it's difficult on the podcast. So I want to ask you how you manage to get the different styles and the different guests, because even inside of sim racing, you have a big pool of people doing it. You have from esports to arcade guys to more hardcore. So how you narrow everything?
I'd love to say that there's some kind of process. I really don't think
there's
there
no
is.
plan. So it's like me.
It's
there's no plan.
I'm so deep in this sim racing world that my Instagram feed, Twitter feed, Facebook feed, my emails, my list of meetings every week, like everybody that I see, interact with, speak with, meet with, partner with, everybody is in sim racing. And so these opportunities, I was in a meeting this morning with a great organization that are doing some stuff with the FIA, like really, really cool. I think they're going to come in with a bit of a bang, and immediately, like, they're on my list now of, I'll invite them to the podcast because they've got a really cool story to tell. They're building something really, really cool. Gridfinder is going to get involved with it, which would be great. Like, there's opportunities all the time. I think when you're in that world 24/7, the opportunities come to you. Like, we haven't yet done a repeat episode. We haven't yet had the same person on twice. But to be honest with you, I think we've been going long enough now that we could, and it'd be fine. And also stuff is happening, right? So, so we, like the people we had right at the beginning, like our first episode was Random Call Sign, and then I think it was Matt Sten from Track Racer, and then I think it was Stefan from D-Box. But even then, like Matt Sten, for example. So, since we spoke to him, he's done a huge amount. He's brought out a whole new product with the TRX. He's now announced, I don't know when they're actually coming out, but he's announced an electronics line. So they're going to be doing wheels, wheelbases, pedals, button boxes, like a full suite of sim racing equipment. They've got the Alpine sponsorship. He seems to be, hugging Pierre Gasly every other week. Like that's all since the last episode. So, most of the guests that we had from the beginning of the show, we could bring back on and have some totally different things to talk about. That would be really interesting for the list and for me, to be honest with you. And that's, I am a sim racer, right? So I ask questions that I'm interested in, assuming that they're probably interesting for other people as well.
Exactly. And you do a lot of sim racing with this busy life, or the sim racing still quite difficult on a daily basis?
It's not as much as I would like, very annoyingly.
I think so.
We have a rig in the office. Yeah, so we have an office in Newcastle with 6 of us that work there. And our first sponsorship for the podcast was Track Racer, and they sent us a TR 180 with the rally seat, which is great. We got some Heusenvelt pedals on it. And we got a CSL DD. Although we've just got a new sponsorship with Aztec, and Aztec are sending us a Forte bundle. So we'll have the Forte wheelbase, Forte pedals, and the Forte rim, which I'm very excited for. But no, most of my stuff went to the office for the rig. And actually the space behind me is allocated for a rig very soon. So I need to get one back at home, because when I'm in the office, I'm usually very, very busy. But we have a hot lap competition in the office. I think, I do 2 or 3 sessions on the rig a week, which is more than most people, but I want to do more. I also want to join some leagues and communities and start being more of a user on Grid Finder.
Okay.
I just haven't had the time. But yeah, I do miss it. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited, especially for, you know, a set of Corsa 2 late next year, if not early 25. I'm kind of excited about Le Mans Ultimate, mainly for a couple of reasons, right?
I don't know now. Yeah, but now with this fog.
No, I know. But hear me out, right? Hear me out.
Yep.
A, Le Mans is very freaking cool, and I would love to do Le Mans racing. But B, if you were Motorsport Games and you're like, right, we need to do some damage limitation, we need to really fix our reputation, and we need to turn this ship around. You've just got rid of the IndyCar license. You got rid of the NASCAR license. You know, you're just selling everything off left, right, and center. Traction GG's gone, right? The only thing that you have left is Studio 397 and the new game that's coming out, Le Mans Ultimate. You've got rid of a lot of staff who were working on other projects. Like, that Le Mans Ultimate game has to be perfect. Like they cannot get away with just launching any old nonsense. Like, that has to be, otherwise there's no future, right? So everything is pinned, I think, on that game. So maybe I say excited, maybe like more in terms of curiosity and like a deep desire that they get it right. Like, it would be, I just really hope they get it right.
I agree with you.
But yeah, so I think
I agree with you, because I think, again, what we speak about the negativity and everything, what happened with motorsport games in 2022 is not what happened with the new CEO and everything. It was another CEO, was another ideas, and the company suddenly get a lot of money, and after them was lies to NASCAR. There was a financial thing that was beyond. I think the problem of the company on the games probably don't result was not even a problem of the devs, because a lot of them apparently was not even been paid. As you really remember, was some devs that was asking for the payment. So it was something there that could be not only from the gaming part, but from the financial and the way of having the company. So I think now Stephen have to clean everything, and it's a lot of things to do before everything go right. So I think they are probably clean everything that they can to make, like you say, just the next product, make the product right. And if the product don't go well, okay, that's what's going to happen to the company. But I really hope that is a good product, or at least the image are looking good. And I didn't try it, but for people that try it, let's say that was going good. The new online on R Factor 2 is going better than was expected, the new online mode. So I think you have some positives, and the same thing to GTR Revival. I think the image they look juicy. They look really pretty.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And we need good games. I think, I don't know. We need to change a little bit the mentality of and give time, because on these days, even outside of sim racing, tell me a game that came and was perfect from the first day to the last one. You don't want to remember any game, All of them have some backlash.
GoldenEye was perfect.
Yeah, I think we changed, So let's see. I hope so. And in terms of Grid Finder, let me only to start wrapping the podcast. What's going to be the next step for Grid Finder as a company?
So we have we launched our league management service about 12 weeks ago, right? So we've built a baseline now where communities that are advertising on Grid Finder looking for new drivers, they can now go on and create race calendars. And let's say you're a community that you do Forza on Xbox on a Tuesday, iRacing on PC on a Wednesday, and F1 on PlayStation on a Friday. Like, crazy schedule if that's what you do. But if you did do that, you could have all of it on Grid Finder in the same place. So you can have all of your drivers registered to your community on Grid Finder. You can create calendars for each of those leagues. Each of the leagues will have a championship. The championship could run for whatever it is, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever you want it to run for. All of the results, either you can drop just result files in and it automatically reads the results file, put it in, and it updates all the standings. Or if it's a console game that doesn't have that integration, then you can just manually drag and drop. So we've done a system where the drivers who have registered for the race when the race is finished, you get a race results screen where you can just go see all the drivers that are registered, drag and drop them into the right positions, hit submit, and away you go. You can create your point systems and all the rest of it. We've got a split management system. So if you run multiple splits, then you can manage, you can create that and manage it. You can move people from splits, mid-season as well, and points carry across or don't, depending on what you want to do. We have a driver class system, so you can have like pros, pro-ams, ams if you want to. You could have whatever you want. Some do like a gold, silver, bronze, and you have to build up points to get to them. So that's kind of where we're at. It's about 12 weeks ago. We've had some communities testing it, but the big things that are coming out is we've got a whole load of tools for livery sharing, broadcaster and commentary dashboards, coaching, booking, and payment systems. Yeah, just so commentary, commentators and broadcasters, engineers, so setups. So you can upload your setups and share those. Livery designing, coaching time. Like there's just we're trying to kind of build out roles and experiences on the platform for not just the drivers, right? So if you're a member of a community but you're a steward, you have a steward profile, and then there's a stewarding dashboard. So when you can review incidents through the platform, and then you could submit votes, etc. For the way that the direction that the decision is going. So red car versus blue car, whatever. So yeah, that's what we're building. We built the baseline of it, which we're really happy with. We spent the last 4 weeks just going through. We're doing a huge update to our API, essentially speeding up the site and also opening up for third-party integrations with it, which we're really excited about. We've got a huge partnership that we are now through the kind of not negotiation phase, but the kind of planning phase, and we're now working on our first project together with essentially the world's largest esports integration engine. So I can't say who they are, but they're a company that essentially builds these community integrations directly into games, which is obviously incredibly exciting for us. We get automated data from.
I think everyone can understand the which one you are talking about. I think just for what you say, we don't say the name, but yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Could be anyone. Could be anyone. Which is very, very exciting. Yeah, it's exciting because it gives a bit more back to the communities, because the communities will get data, automatically, and you'll be able to do a lot of stuff inside the game on it. So you still have your profiles and whatnot on Grid Finder, and you'll still have we're building. I won't say that, but we're building like a gamification loyalty systems. We're going to allow communities to charge memberships. So we're not going to have a membership, right? So Grid Finder is totally free, totally free. We're going to have some options, but you're not going to have to pay for like features. It'll be things like if you want to boost your league to the top of the search results for a little while, you'll be able to pay for that. And if you want to charge members a membership fee, or you want donations, or you want to collect a prize pool, for example, like an entry fee, we're going to be facilitating all of that. It's all going to be transparent so that your community members can see, right, this month we've had, I don't know what it is, let's say £100 in membership fees, £50 in donations. We've spent £75 on commentary and broadcasting, and £75 is a prize pool for this championship. And you'll be able to see where everything is going, so that it's it's transparent. And so that's the vision behind it. We are just about to increase our development team, so we have 4 developers, 1 UI UX designer, full time working on the project. We're about to increase that team up in the next couple of months, probably after Christmas. Now, yeah. So we're starting to grow quite quickly, which is exciting. And the product next year, I'm very excited for. The roadmap between now and like next August is nuts. So we're kind of gearing up for the winter season at the end of 24. That's when we're going to be like, okay, we've arrived. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's a really fun challenge. We're very much open to collaboration. So, if you have a tool for telemetry, or if you have a tool for livery packaging, or if you have a tool for like in-game overlays, all of that sort of stuff, we want to collaborate, partner, integrate, and then support. So we want to kind of be a baseline that all of this stuff is mounting onto, which is why there hasn't been a huge amount of updates on the site recently, because we're building that foundational layer of connectivity, the API stuff I was talking about. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's really good fun. I just freaking love that every day I get to walk into the office and just do a full day of sim racing stuff. If I'm being honest, it's very, very rarely actually sim racing.
Yeah, but that's a dream, no?
Yeah. No, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. I was saying, I think people, when you do something that you like, it independent what it is, and if something that's making you happy, make the job much more easy. And as we be talking about the negativity and everything, make all that disappear and make you focus on provide the best service that you can do.
100%. Totally agree.
All right, Tom. Thanks so much for joining me on my podcast. I know that we are doing the same type of job on different ways. You approach sim racing probably in a more professional way than I do it, because I'm more amateur. You have a team behind it. So in my case, it's just me.
Oh no, mate, we're both like I'm an amateur too, and I always will be an amateur, and that's the beauty of it.
Oh yeah. That's I agree. We every day we learn something that we always think, why I never think about this one? Why I'm doing this way? And I can see, for example, that you are even on your shorts, you are changing a little bit. You're already putting the whoosh when you change the cameras change. This type of things that we need to do to keep tracking the retention.
Iterating, just testing, just test. Always test.
Exactly. Even if you don't like it, you need to do it because it's the way that the market unfortunately works. So we need to adapt ourselves, to do this one. And I think you guys are doing a great job. I think.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think you guys, in terms of podcast, when I do my last episode, when I was giving options, because sadly Traxio finish, I was giving options on the same way that Traxio was doing. So the podcast, the first one was yours, and after I think it's iRacing Downshift. That's another podcast that's going very well. And after someone in German, and of course you mentioned Chris Way. Once again, I hope Chris Way is doing well. I hope everything on his life will go on the way that he can come back to sim racing, because I think for me he's one of the voices that I miss more in sim racing. I must say, I think his knowledge, his way of doing everything was perfect. I really enjoy his content on being on podcast or being on a video was always great. So I really hope one day he can come back.
I hope he's doing okay.
And thanks again, once again, for being with me.
Thanks for having me.